When I first started homeschooling, I was doing all the things that all the cool moms on YouTube were doing. And then I started wondering why I couldn't get it to work seamlessly like they were doing it. And so today I am sharing 11 things that we chose not to do in our homeschool and why that's okay for us and why that's working for us. And so if you are doing any of those things, keep doing it if it works for your family. I'm just sharing our journey here. The first thing is no strict schedule. What I was doing in the beginning is trying to recreate school at home. And I wasn't into the 9 to 3, but I was still wanting school to start at 8 o'clock and then being strict about it. And then at 10 o'clock, we would have recess, or at least like go for a walk or the playground and things like that. And then come back home and having everything planned by the time. And then I started into our blocks. And then that wasn't working either. And I felt like I was constantly behind. Now, we have a routine that works for us, and we homeschool in a structured way with textbooks and things like that 3 days a week. And it's been working amazingly. And you know that if you're homeschooling as well, you know that our kids are learning so much all day, every day. And it's not just in the textbooks. And that brings me to not using workbooks or worksheets or textbooks on a daily basis. And I know it's different for everybody, but Micah and I have chosen to educate our children on a hands-on life experience, like really experiencing that instead of reading about it and reading about the birds or a volcano and things like that. Like we really want a hands-on for them to be able to experience that firsthand. And of course, we use living books and we use other type of books and literature and all of these awesome things. But our main focus is really on real life experiences. And we will be using workbooks for math and things like that. But at the end of the day, the main core teaching that we have for our children is really a life on experience. Next thing is no formal testing. And I know it's very different for every province and every state. And where we are right now is actually a very homeschooling friendly province. So that is absolutely amazing. But what I'm talking about, it's more so it, we don't test our children on a daily basis or a weekly basis or monthly basis or however often that is, or like giving them grades or like 18 out of 20. We actually don't test them. We will go through to make sure that they comprehend the material, but there's no formal testing. Next one is not purchasing complete curriculum packages. And what I've seen in the past is curriculums that come with like 8 to 10 books for $300 to $500. And I do see the value in how some of us, we may want everything that we need for the entire year and we don't have to think about it throughout the year, and that we order one time and then everything comes together. And that is awesome if that works for you. For me, I found that a lot of what Micah and I would do is that we would completely personalize the curriculum. And so there's pretty much half of what is suggested we wouldn't be doing. And so, to me, I don't see the point in that. What I really like in her homeschooling, it's a minimalist way of doing things where these books I don't necessarily have to buy, and we can go to the library and all of these things that it's not bound to that one curriculum. We can replace and we can do other things to have that curriculum and to make it work for our needs. So I haven't found a need to purchase a complete curriculum package. No co-ops or group classes. I know. That is a big one. And a lot of friends have mentioned how co-ops are so awesome and how it changed their entire homeschooling life. And that is absolutely amazing if that works for you. For Micah and I, we see more value in having a homeschooling group that gets together on a weekly basis for a hike or a fun activity or an outing or something like that we get to do all together. Because for Micah and I, we want to homeschool because we want to be with our children. We want to hang out with them. We want to learn with them and see what life that they're experiencing. And so for us, it's very important that we get to be the influence, the main influence in their life. And a lot of it is some homeschooling co-ops, even the Christian ones, would be teaching some things that are not necessarily in alignment with our families. Some of them celebrate Halloween, and some of them teach about magic or read stories about magic, and just like things like that, that we are very protective of our association and the influence and what comes in our mind and what's being taught to our children. We really want to make sure that the people that we get around have similar values than ours. Next one is no overload on activities or extracurricular activities. Mike and I love a simple life and to not be busy and to constantly be out of the house. And so we absolutely love our rule that we have for a little bit now, where we have one extracurricular activity per child per session. They've done skating, and then after that, they've done swimming. And what we found when we done that is that we stopped running around and stopped being busy for the sake of it. And I know that a lot of us, we experienced that busyness. And Mike and I didn't want that. We wanted to be home. We wanted to be together. We wanted to spend time together and not constantly driving our kids everywhere there and then dropping them off here and then spending an hour there. And that was not working for us. And so we applied the same thing for homeschooling. There is not more than one extracurricular activity for each girl for each semester. And right now, they're actually not doing anything, which is absolutely amazing because I feel like we're so in control of our routine and our schedule. And it's just absolutely amazing. We get to be home when we want to be home. We get to be out when we want to be out. There is no recurrent activity on a weekly basis and is absolutely beautiful. And I used to be out of the house every single day because I was trying to recreate school because I want to make sure that our children were so social and confident in their social skills when I'm seeing them and they're interacting with young kids and kids older than them and adults and just in such a confident way. I'm like, okay, they don't need all of that. It's totally okay to actually be home and to be really embracing what is at home because we love our home so much. We love being together and not being constantly pulled in 20,000 directions. Next one is no formal morning basket. And that was actually one of the first one that I tried because I thought it was so cool to have a basket with your Bible, devotional, like tons of books to read out loud. I thought that was so amazing to start the day together and like just so cozy and starting homeschooling day amazingly. And we've done that. And I felt that it was just was another one of those things. And I'm really great at overachieving and checking things off my list. And I felt like that was just one of those things where I would just check things off my list. And the same thing for a curriculum. I just need to be very mindful to not be curriculum slave and to go through all the stuff in the curriculum because I just want to get it done. And so, so it became like just thing that I felt I needed to do for homeschooling to be peaceful and happy and all of these things. And when I totally missed the point of doing that so then we can be together and really enjoy the moment together. So what we do now is that we read the Bible every morning and then they go through their questions and they go through our narration and it's just so awesome to be able to be together and not feeling like I have to do all of these things like the Bible, devotional, and all these like 20 out louds that I have to do. And yeah, so no morning basket for us. Next thing is not doing all the subjects every single day. And that was another thing that I felt like I'm very intense in how I homeschool and just in life in general. And so I thought that we needed to do French every day, math every day, English every day. And part of it is I think that I really like the habit stacking aspect where I I'm better to accomplish a habit when it's done every day than like when it's done once a week. I can't work out 1 to 3 times a week because the habit takes so much effort and willpower for me to build. Whereas if I work out every day, then I can nail that because it's the same routine and it's the same thing that I need to do every single day. And so same thing for our homeschooling is that I felt that if we did the subjects every single day, then it was going to be great for us. And what I found is, although it can be work for me, it can be great for me, it wasn't necessarily great for all of us, like our children. And so I felt like science and history and all of these things that first we are using more on the live experience for those topics and living books and things like that. We don't have any real curriculums per se because I personally believe that science is meant to be experienced and history is meant to actually hear it and read from living books and also experience it when we can. And whereas French, English, and math, I felt that that was very important for us to do every single day. And it is totally okay to not do that every single day. Heavy emphasis on Latin and ancient languages like Greek and all these beautiful languages. And I do see the value in a lot of those things. And I do understand that there is some pull for some of us. For Mickey and I, we've chosen that. So I am French. Well, my parents are Vietnamese, and I was born in Montreal, Quebec. To me, for our girls, I would rather have them be perfectly bilingual in French and English, first and foremost, than any other languages. And then after that, I want them to learn Vietnamese. I want them to be able to communicate or at least understand because that's my mother's tongue. And so I think that's very important. And then after that, I think that I would love for them to learn Spanish because it is one of the most prominent languages in the world. Actually, I think it's Mandarin first or something like that. But anyway, and it's just like those languages. I think I do see the value in understanding Latin and these things because that's what is the root of our English language. But there are so many more languages that I want our children to learn and that they want to learn. And our girls have been asking to learn Vietnamese. I do my best to speak with them, but I'm like, I want you to learn French first, and then yeah, so to be continued. Because a lot of those homeschooling philosophies, I do see so much value in giving our children such a variety of topics and subjects for them to be educated on so they know what they like. But for Micah and I, we've tried all of that. And we've also figured out that we want our children to be really hands on with life experiences. So they will be exposed to all of these different things, but they don't need to be having that as a subject in our homeschool. And that's what it may change later, but right now, that's what works for us. Memorizing and reciting poems and speeches and all these beautiful things from our English language. And I do see the value. I do understand why we would want to do that. But for Micah and I, we've chosen to, if there's anything that I'm going to have our children memorize and recite, it's going to be Bible verses. Next thing is not labeling myself. We have done tons of different homeschooling philosophies because I just so love learning about different things and really understanding the founder of that philosophy, like the mindset around that, and see what works for us. And really, just I'm so fascinated by all these things. And so we've done Sean Mason for a little bit, and we've done classical education for a little bit, and I thought that was going to be it. And we've done unschooling, and also thought that was going to be it, and all of these different things. We've done Montessori. All of that to say is that what works for us is that we pick and choose what works for us. We pick and choose what works for our values, our family, our lifestyle, what we want our children to learn, and what our focus is. Because every single year, before I start choosing curriculums or activities, I write down the 5 top things that I want our children to learn. I want them to love Jesus with all of their heart, soul, and mind, first and foremost. And then what is the next thing? And what is the next thing? And that helps me recenter and remember that we are not academic focused. We are really Christ centered. And first and foremost, I want them to learn about Jesus. And so everything else, it's secondary to that. And so I just need to help me remember that because I see all these new shiny curriculums and then I'm like, oh, that's so awesome. And then I hear about this new philosophy. I'm like, oh my gosh, that is so amazing. And trying to fit our children in this mold that society wants us to do. And it doesn't work for us anyway. I don't want that. I want to do what works for us, and that is absolutely okay. Minimalism, even in our homeschooling, it's what works best for a family. If you want to learn how we do it, check the next video.